Welcome back to our coverage on the disappearance of baby Emmanuel Haro from Cabazon, California on August 14th. This is now the fourth episode we are doing on this case, and we are recording this on September 3rd, 2025. We've had 3 updates previously, and we're going to do another one here today and just take everyone through the timeline of what's happened up till now.
Right, and there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of updates that have been corrected or at least maybe tried to be explained away on both sides of multiple sides, on the family side, on law enforcement side, on the DA side, and on the media side. And I feel like there's just a big pot of information that people are just trying to sift through to find some sort of answer here. So this is us trying to figure it out as well, because there's a lot of stuff going on here and a lot of maybe some misinformation or misreporting or good reporting that's called bad reporting. But we're going to do our best.
We sure are. And we do have a podcast feed specifically dedicated to cover missing Emmanuel Haro's story. So if you want to subscribe there, that would be helpful. And at some point, we will likely release these episodes there only. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back to go over the timeline. Okay, so this story first broke on August 14th when Rebecca Haro was with baby Emmanuel in a sporting goods parking lot in Yucaipa, California. She claimed she needed to change baby Emmanuel's diaper, and she had gotten out of the car to do so and was basically punched and attacked and woke up on the ground near her car, and Emmanuel was gone. So they quickly started doing news, and people noticed the black eye that Rebecca had. Want to note quickly here that neighbors actually did say that they saw Rebecca with that black eye before August 14th. So pretty much immediately there were questions about the black eye and her story.
Right. And here's the first bit of information that kind of stands out in a way where you might not quite take it, or you should be taking it with a grain of salt, because we know about eyewitness statements and being accountable for that information. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, because maybe how do you know, like, the date? Maybe they're mixing up the dates. So perhaps she had the black eye. Maybe could have been the day after. I don't know.
And so on August 17th, just a few days later, there was a toddler from the Haro household that was taken into protective custody. So the detectives visited the Haro home as part of their investigation, and they took a 2-year-old sibling of Emmanuel into custody by Riverside County Child Protective Services, which is probably typical and seems safe.
Right. Right. If you have a child, I was wondering this, if you have a young child, a toddler who's kidnapped, is it then the protocol to use your discretion and say, okay, we need to take other children from the household into protective custody just for whatever reason? Like, I don't know if it means abuse or whatever, but that's just what was out there and what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably our first sign of some doubt of the story from law enforcement, because if they believed the story, I don't think the kid necessarily would have been in any danger in the house. You know what I mean? So it seemed like at that point they started not believing the story. And then just a few days later, on August 20th, police actually stated publicly that there were inconsistencies with Mom Rebecca's story.
Right.
So yeah, this started unfolding pretty quickly. And then on August 21st, it was reported that Jake Haro had abused his daughter from a previous marriage and nearly killed the child. And of course, we went over a lot of these details in, I think it was our second episode, Lance. And these details are absolutely horrifying. They're very disturbing injuries on a young child. And he nearly killed that baby.
Right, and we were saying that because he did plead guilty to it. So that's us saying that because he pled guilty, he nearly killed this child, and to this day she cannot see, she can't speak, she can't walk. So it's a miracle that she survived. I use that word, I don't often use that word miracle, but it is a miracle that she survived. And it's interesting to note that he did, and this is something we just learned, he did say that he pled guilty because he couldn't afford to go to trial.
Right. Interesting. So then, so that's not even him like saying he was guilty. That's just saying he didn't have the money to fight.
Right.
But it seems like obviously he was guilty of that.
I would say that he's guilty of that. Yeah, that's my opinion. And if he had anything to do with Emmanuel's disappearance, that would track with his previous behavior. But also interesting to note that his lawyer, who he's retained for this one, was the lawyer in the previous abuse case. So he had said that he couldn't afford to go to trial, so that's why he pled guilty. And I'm just wondering why he hired the same lawyer that he couldn't afford the first time around.
That's a good question. I guess just some familiarity there.
I guess so. And why would the lawyer take the case? I've been hard on this lawyer for every single time we have an update on this. So I don't know. If you're the lawyer and he couldn't afford you the first time and your advice to him was plead guilty because you can't afford this, why are you taking him on for the second time?
Yeah, I don't know. But Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestrin called the decision by the judge outrageous, and that decision being to really let Jake Haro out. I mean, I think he served 180 days and some probation, but
I think it was like 4 years probation.
Yeah, but there are a lot of angry people today, including the DA Mike Hestrin, who says that Emmanuel would be alive today if the proper sentence was given to Jake Haro.
Yeah, he's quoted as saying if that judge had done his job as he should have done, Emmanuel would still be alive today.
I guess technically Emmanuel wouldn't even have been born, probably, though.
Right, exactly, because he'd be in jail.
Yeah, which I think everyone agrees or seems to agree that's where he ought to be. Of course, there's no conviction at this point, but we're going to get a little further into this story and hear about some possible confessions.
Just one more quick point on that, because you just made me start to think about it. I mean, even if the proper mechanisms were in place and he got the 4 years probation, why is he not being monitored when he has another child? Where did that go? Where was the shoe dropped there? That's so frustrating, because then Emmanuel would be alive.
Right. It does seem like there's a couple of different counties involved here, Riverside County and San Bernardino County. So I do think there may be some jurisdictional issues as far as that goes, but I do know that law enforcement says they're working very closely together and very well together. So that's good, at least.
Well, yeah, it's good that they're working well together now.
And so also on August 21st, police seized a family car from the Haros, and they did bring cadaver-sniffing dogs to their house, and apparently didn't find anything. Although the very next day, on August 22nd, the Haros were arrested. And here's a quick statement from San Bernardino County Sheriff. This morning, detectives from the Sheriff's Homicide Detail and Specialized Enforcement Division arrested Jake and Rebecca Haro at their residence in Cabazon for PC 187 murder. Investigators will continue their search for 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. And PC 187 murder is the unlawful killing of a human being or fetus with malice aforethought. So that would be an intentional killing of baby Emmanuel.
Correct. And the repercussions for that, the penalties for that penal code range from 25 years to life. So it's essentially first-degree murder, life without parole, or even the death penalty for capital murder. So it's all combined in that penal code.
And that brings us to Sunday, August 24th, when Jake Haro was seen in Moreno Valley near a freeway with authorities. And they seem to be searching for something, likely Emmanuel. I don't think we know for sure, but apparently nothing was located. So that kind of came and went. I think a lot of people, me included, kind of expected a breaking news update any moment after I, saw those photos of Jake out there with investigators. He's in his orange jumpsuit. You would think this is a very specific area off of a freeway, that he brought the police to that area to locate baby Emmanuel, what he must have dumped there or something. That was my guess, but apparently that was not the case at all, because they didn't find anything.
Yeah. And we'll get into the comments of some law enforcement officials who are trying to temper the information that's out there coming from different sources like social media and regular media. But like you said, when you see somebody out there and you've been following the story that's been reported on, that's had law enforcement being quoted by reporters, you see this image of him in his jumpsuit by a freeway. What conclusion are you going to make? And if you're doing any coverage on this, whether you're mainstream media or social media or what you and I do, what conclusion are you going to make? And we'll say all the time, like, hey, I don't know what happened. I'm just saying what I'm looking at and what the quotes are. And it looked like he had struck some sort of deal to show law enforcement where the body was so that they can proceed with the trial or with the conviction or with something. So sorry if I got a little fired up there, but what else are you supposed to deduce from that? Because I don't know. Like, he's not pulling a John Doe from Seven here and taking cops out for this ridiculous, intricate plot, right? No, that's not at all what is crossing my mind. It looked like he was ready to give up the location of the body.
It did, but now you have to wonder if he's sending authorities on a wild goose hunt.
Right, but yeah, exactly my point. Like, now we have to go down this speculative path of, why is he doing that? What is the purpose here?
So a few days later, on August 27th, Mike Hestrin and other law enforcement folks, they gave a press conference detailing what authorities had uncovered about the alleged child abuse inflicted upon Emmanuel. And here's a quote here from Hestrin. The evidence shows that baby Emmanuel endured ongoing abuse that ultimately took his life. Our office is committed to ensuring that justice is done for this child and that his short life is not forgotten.
Boy.
And they also wrote that Emmanuel died on or about August 5th, 2025, through and including August 14th, 2025, in the county of Riverside, state of California, and the defendants did willfully and unlawfully murder. So that's interesting that, that window of time is open about 10 days before Emmanuel was considered missing, in that moment that Rebecca claimed he was abducted. That was August 14th. So police are saying anytime between August 5th and August 14th, Emmanuel was murdered intentionally by his parents. That's what they're saying.
Right. And just to back up on your previous statement about him enduring abuse, he's 7 months old. So from basically the time he was taken home from the hospital, he was at some point abused up until within 9 or 10 days of him being reported as a kidnapped victim. It's sickening.
It is sickening, and it would follow Jake's prior history of
exactly.
abusing, babies.
Yep. He's a serial child abuser. If he's an alleged, he's guilty of the first one. Pled guilty.
He's definitely guilty of the first one. Yeah. And the police are accusing him of abuse here in this second one and murder now. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely a convicted child abuser. Very likely a child murderer.
That is, if he's found guilty and he goes to prison here, that is not going to be a comfortable prison experience for him.
No.
I don't think they really prefer child murderers in prison.
I don't think so. I did see some comments on YouTube under some videos saying you gotta leave him in the Gen Pop for that exact reason,
Yeah.
So Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes, in a press conference, Dykes doubled down on his department's belief that the parents fabricated the kidnapping report. Here's a quote here. Forensically, there are a number of things that we were able to prove up. There's a tremendous amount of evidence that suggests the initial story posed was not the correct story. The sheriff added that he was unable to go into further details, but Hestrin said law enforcement has a, quote, pretty strong indication of where the remains of baby Emmanuel are, end quote. Really interesting quote. Probably the single most interesting quote from that entire press conference.
Yeah. Because I'm taking this as forensically there are a number of things that we were able to prove up. And that was coming from Dicus. Tremendous amount of evidence that suggests the initial story posed was not the correct story. So I'm assuming that means the kidnapping story. The initial story posed. Yep. Okay.
Yep. The black eye, all of that, I believe, yes.
Right. And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
So, and this is a really interesting part here. So on August 27th, same day, News Nation's Brian Entin released a video detailing an account from a source of his that, I don't believe he named. But this Brian Entin is a legit reporter and has broken a lot of news in the past. He says his source told him that Jake Haro confessed to killing baby Emmanuel accidentally from rolling over on top of him in bed. We're going to play a clip here.
I have exclusive new information about the baby Emmanuel murder case out of California. Baby Emmanuel's father, sources tell me, Jake Haro, told a fake inmate in the jail that he killed baby Emmanuel and put the baby in a trash can in his house. Let me repeat that again. Sources say that Jake Haro told a fake inmate in the jail that he killed baby Emmanuel and put the baby in a trash can in his house. You might be wondering how police got this information. This is part of what I'm told is called a Perkins operation. A Perkins operation, which is when police use a fake inmate to try to get information out of someone who has been arrested and who is inside the jail. This Perkins operation came after, I'm told, Jake Haro confessed to police that he rolled over in bed and killed the baby by accident and then buried the baby. So that is what Jake Haro told police, which is why he took police to that spot out along the freeway. This video that we have that shows him out there searching. That story, I'm told police believe, was all made up. First they got that story, then they decided to do the Perkins operation, I'm told, which is when they used the fake inmate and when they say they got the information that Jake Haro actually killed baby Emmanuel and put baby Emmanuel into a trash can. Meanwhile, baby Emmanuel's mother, I'm told, is still sticking to the same story. They also did a Perkins operation with her in jail, and she is standing by her story that baby Emmanuel was kidnapped. That is also, you'll remember, what she told a reporter who she talked to in jail.
Okay, so really interesting stuff there from News Nation's Brian Entin, from one of his sources about these Perkins operations, which are devised to get information that, someone who's charged with a crime isn't giving willingly, I guess. So yeah, they essentially send in an informant who is law enforcement or working with law enforcement to get the story and turn that over.
Right. And you did say that he's a legit reporter. He is. Like, this is the guy who spent weeks camped out during the Gabby Petito murder investigation. He spent weeks camped out on a lawn next to Brian Laundrie's house in order to get all of that story as he could. He's won Emmys. He's been known to, like, not just report but fully immerse himself in the stories. He's traveled the world to get stories in the Middle East. I mean, the guy isn't just a fly-by-night TikTok reporter. Like, he is immersed in this. So yeah, when you say legit, he's legit.
Yeah, and the reason that's coming up is because police have sort of pushed back on that report and said that Jake Haro did not confess to killing his son Emmanuel. So interesting there. Brian then kind of did his own response video and sort of seemed to, I guess, blame semantics in the word confession, because I think if we break this down a little bit, it kind of gives us the answer. Because in the video we just played, Brian says that Jake confessed to someone in prison that he killed Emmanuel, but it sounded like also by rolling over on top of him in bed, which Brian Enton reported was what he apparently told police. And that was why they were searching off of the freeway in Moreno Valley, because after that part of the story that he rolled over and killed Emmanuel, that he buried him. So that seems to not be true. And Brian said that police do not believe that's true at this point. So I wonder, after that happened, that's when the Perkins operation happened in the jailhouse, and he told that informant that he killed the baby. But then the difference here was that he said he put the baby into the trash. So the manner of death in both stories that Jake had given that we can discern at this point, one to the jailhouse informant and one apparently to the police, both of them seem like it's, I accidentally did it. I accidentally rolled over the baby, right? But one of them, what he told the police, seems to be, I buried him off of the freeway. Doesn't seem to be true. What he told the jailhouse informant seems to be that he threw the baby away. And at that point, if that's what happened, you would think that by now, weeks later, that baby is likely in a dump, from where the trash was collected and everything. Yeah.
Right. So essentially, yes, he did confess to killing the baby, to killing Emmanuel, but it was an accidental. Yeah. It was an accidental killing. It was an accidental death.
Right. But that's got problems too, because why wouldn't you just call the police? If you did, you don't throw your baby away if you accidentally kill your kid, or, God forbid, there's accidents that happen, pools, things like that. People call the police. You don't throw your kid away if there's an accident. So I think we can throw out his story that it was accidental.
Yeah. So apparently he was convicted with 4 years probation in 2023, right? So that would bring him to 2027. And so he's still in that time frame of being on probation for this. So why wouldn't his first call be his lawyer, where he says, oh my God, I accidentally killed Emmanuel. What do I do now? Second call is, I'm just talking from like a crass point of view. If he's thinking more about his own well-being, honestly, his first call should have been 911. Maybe they can save my child. I don't know how long I've been suffocating Emmanuel, but he might still be able to be revived. So his first call, yes, should be 911. But then he should be calling his lawyer and saying, what do I do? I have another child incident on my hands. And unless he did call his lawyer and his lawyer was like, well, get rid of the body. But I don't think that happened.
Yeah, that would be really wild.
You're still on probation, and your choice was to throw the child away?
Yeah, I don't know. And also interesting that Enton reports from the Perkins operation with Rebecca is that she stuck to her exact same story about the abduction, getting punched by some abductor, and baby Emmanuel is kidnapped in that parking lot. So really interesting. We got a lot of people saying things.
I get the frustration from law enforcement, because now they do have to like split hairs with the semantics, like you said. Like they have to break down, like, no, stop reporting that he confessed to murder. He didn't confess to murder. According to the report, he admitted to accidentally killing Emmanuel.
Right. It seems like that's the semantics there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on August 27th, Jake Haro actually spoke briefly with the Orange County Register. And so he said that allegations made by law enforcement during that press conference were not true at all. And that's his quote, not true at all. And he did decline to speak further at the advice of his attorney. He did add that God is with us, And the allegations are horrendous, so of course people are going to be riled up. And he noted that if he could tell his son one thing, it would be, "I love you, buddy."
Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've definitely seen some comments online. People really don't like the buddy part of that.
I don't like any part of that. God is with us. What are you talking about? Why are you bringing God into this?
Yeah.
I love you, buddy. God is with us. You're not a... Don't play the sympathetic role. Like, you've already pled guilty to nearly murdering one of your other children. How is your God with you here?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, and I believe you mentioned earlier about Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco mentioning that people should be careful what they see on social media. And he even went on to say, if it did not come from our two agencies, stop believing it. So
I have mixed emotion on. Yeah, I'm mixed on that.
Yeah, I mean there are reporters doing real news. I do get it. Like, he's probably trying to protect a conviction at some point and muddying the waters with, sourced reports of confessions that law enforcement saying are not that. It could muddy things a little bit. But I think we're probably going to get to a spot where these two will be convicted pretty easily, I would think. But it's definitely challenging without a body.
Right. And this Chad Bianco, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say this Chad Bianco because it is him. Chad Bianco said something to the effect of, he was referencing the media that he was speaking to, all of you people with your cameras. And just the way he says, all of you people with your cameras, what do you want them to do? Like, you don't want them to have that job? Like, that's what they do for a living. It's been going on for hundreds of years. Like, it's your job to be respectful and courteous and provide them with answers that they can then responsibly communicate to the public. Like, that's the flow. Like, don't reference them as like being beneath anything by calling them you people with your cameras. Maybe he didn't mean that, but
yeah, media is not the bad guy here.
Exactly.
Not even close.
Right. So it just made me think like he's setting up a situation where he's like, well, if it wasn't for the media, this would have been wrapped up much quicker.
I think if it wasn't for the media and specifically social media, I'm not really sure that this case would be as popular as it is. And I really think that people on social media were kind of the first people to raise red flags here about the story, because the very first thing that we heard in this story was the mom's interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Law enforcement, even in their press conference, said that the Haros already gave their press conference, so now we're giving ours.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it must be frustrating. I get it. It must be frustrating for all members of law enforcement to now have to navigate the waters of social media, mainstream media, and maintain their investigation and try to ensure that a conviction is just and proper and efficient and done in an efficient manner. But again, don't be so combative, because that's only going to exacerbate the problem, and I'm air quoting the problem that you think is out there. Like, work with the media, work with social media, figure out a way where there's a proper flow of information between all parties, and do your investigation. And
it was the Haros first who did that. You know, they spoke with media that obviously traveled far on social media. You know, for people to see that and not be up in arms about a missing baby would be weird, you know? So I think the reaction from the public is fine in regards to this story.
Yeah, same.
And then, Lance, just yesterday there was an interview from the U.S. Sun, who did a quick interview with a woman who works at a clothing store in that same parking lot where Rebecca claimed that Emmanuel was abducted from. And she apparently saw Jake on August 15th with law enforcement, apparently searching for Emmanuel. And she did claim that his tears seemed fake.
Right. And she goes into a lot of detail here, and that's the entire gist of this article. Now, here's where the journalism starts to take some liberties, right? It's going down these paths that might not be as productive as we want them to be. Her entire gist in this article is her opinion on Jake. And it didn't look like he was crying. His eyes were red, sure, but he didn't seem like he was that upset. He was out of breath and seemed like he was distraught, but in my opinion, blah, 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 fill in the blank. So this is all her opinion on Jake and his behavior and her interaction with him. So, again, if you're going to report on it, make sure, and this goes both ways, we just said it, if law enforcement's going to want proper reporting, then the media outlets should do proper reporting so law enforcement does not have this distrust of everybody. And I get it, you're putting out a piece to get people to click on it. I clicked on it, I sent it, like you clicked on it, like we're sharing it, so that's a job that has been accomplished by the Sun, good job. But it is all opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lance. Well, that's pretty much where we are as of today, September 3rd, 2025. I'm sure there's going to be updates in the next week, and we will be back to detail those updates. We are heading to CrimeCon this weekend, though, yes, out in Denver, Colorado. So if something were to break this weekend, we would not be able to report on it until next week. So we will be back likely next week to update this story. Thank you very much for listening and following this story.